Hello and welcome to the 50th episode of the TID Water and Power Podcast. I'm your host, Constance Anderson, and on this month's episode, we're interviewing the TID Board of Directors. As a community-owned utility, TID is governed by a 5-member, locally elected Board of Directors. These board members determine district policy and rules, set the budget, and are the representatives for our customer owners, the ratepayers and growers in the community we serve. Later in this episode, I'll be joined by TID Board Directors David Yonan, Joe Alamo, Becky Hackler Arellano, and Ron Macedo. But joining us first on the podcast is TID Director Michael Frantz. Director Frantz, thank you for joining us.
Absolutely. Happy to be here.
Wonderful. So you get to kick off the podcast today because you are the district's representative for Division 1, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. But if you would first start by telling us a little bit about yourself and how long you've been on the TID Board of Directors.
Yeah, Constance, thank you. I have been a board member since 2009. I was appointed then to fill a vacancy on the TID board. A gentleman who had served before me served for 32 years. So when I came in, I had big shoes to fill, and I've always felt that way even still. I'm a businessman who lives along the Tuolumne River in Hickman. So right there on the eastern edge of TID's water service territory is where I make my home and my business.
Very good. Well, we're happy to have you on the board and have you with us today. What would you say is the role of the TID Board of Directors?
Yeah, we have an important role. We set policy for the district. We approve all the budgets, which is a substantial, possibly our most important role. We have oversight over most of the managerial practices that take place, and we set all the rules. By being an publicly elected body, we are in many cases able to set rules that other investor-owned utilities have to run through a regulatory body in Sacramento called the California Energy Commission or the CPUC. And as elected officials, we're able in many cases to set policy or rulemaking for the organization and do our own direct oversight.
Now, you raise a really good point in that TID is a publicly owned utility, as opposed to being an investor-owned utility. Can you tell us quickly what some of the differences are there and why it's better to be a publicly owned utility?
Absolutely. We're pretty biased, aren't we? So we obviously, as the name implies, the owners are the folks who live in our community. Our ratepayers are our owners. We do not have investors that we need to serve or to pay. This big distinction allows us to be more affordable in our rates and really be also more accountable to the people who own the district, which is each of you.
How would you say your professional background has influenced your priorities and policy decisions while on the TID board?
Professionally, my brother and I own a wholesale nursery. And so we would say that our products are very connected to the retail consumer. And we're absolutely keenly aware of decisions people make each day as it pertains to affordability. We sell flowers for a living, and flowers are not anything that you have to have. It's very discretionary. Power is about the most opposite you come, meaning that it's a base product that you almost have to function in life. But in my opinion, both of them, affordability is paramount. And so I do think that my professional background of recognizing the sensitivities of consumers' pocketbooks and really factoring that into our decision-making processes here, balancing the need for reliability and safety and understanding that costs money and that pocketbooks are, at any given time, paramount in my opinion.
Very good. So as I mentioned, you represent Division 1 within the overall TID service territory. Can you tell us a little bit about your division, the makeup of the division, any unique details?
As a lifelong resident of Hickman, I'm pretty proud of my division. The east side of the service territory is Division 1, which is my territory. We have a broad diversity of crops, heavy reliance on permanent crops. So you think almonds and walnuts and cherries, grapevines, a lot less forage crops. So with my division comes a exceptional reliance on reliable water supply. Our crops are not one that can go idle or fallow from between year to year. So we're exceptionally sensitive to drought, which makes some of my decision-making extra cautious when it comes to water allocations, because reliability is of paramount importance to Division 1.
Very good. Excellent. Thanks for that. So what would you say motivated you to get involved in public service, specifically on the TID Board of Directors?
Yeah, TID to me is our community. And so when I think about public service and working or giving back to the local community, there's no better way to do that than to consider running for the board of directors. I'd worked for many years in my family business, and I was looking for a challenge, but I also was looking for a way to serve my community. And considering that TID is the community, it was a natural fit for me.
Very good. So, Director Frantz, what would you say is the biggest challenge the district is currently facing on the water side right now?
Yeah, so the big challenge we have is trying to find that right balance between protecting our existing water rights system and the way of life that our entire economy, both farming and businesses, homeowners, all of us in the Central Valley have built our lives around the diversions of water that we have historically diverted from the Tuolumne River onto our farms into our towns. But finding that balance between meeting the current requirements or the current vision of Sacramento, we want to ensure that we have a healthy river and a healthy fishery for not only our current generation, but the next 1s, 2s, 3s, 4 to come. But we have a need for the water. We're putting the water to very efficient and beneficial use. We're growing the food for America. And so we can't afford to change up the whole river system and put it back like it was 150 years ago, because our towns and communities rely on this water. But we do understand that Sacramento has a desire to improve our fishery to become more back to a native fishery. And to the extent that we can, we want to be helpful. But we're not going to do it in such a way that jeopardizes our communities or puts our reliability at risk.
Very good. So what I'm hearing you say in some of your responses then is being a member of the TID Board of Directors is really just constantly balancing those challenges and the different needs that are at play.
It really is. It's really a constant balance, and it's really fun. When you have 5 people, we all have our own point of view, and we don't always see the world through the same lens. But at the end of the day, I think we come to the best conclusion by bringing our own stories and our own experiences to the table. It really is. In many cases, we're balancing affordability and reliability. But we want to continue to look for ways to achieve these big picture policy decisions in a way that maintains affordability.
Very good. What would you say your most proud accomplishment is over your last 15 years on the board?
I have several. And on a personal note, one of the things that I think about almost each Tuesday when I drive to the district for our weekly board meetings is a power pole that a couple of members of our community complained to me about that they felt was causing substantial number of traffic accidents. And in working with electrical engineering, we were able to get that pole removed, and it turned out it didn't even need to be there. And so I always think to myself, I wonder if I've maybe impacted one person's life or one person's health by not having that power pole there. I hope so. On a bigger picture, to answer your question, when I got to TID in 2009, we had almost $1.5 billion in debt. And while it was sustainable, and we have certainly showed that it was sustainable by paying down that debt, it's not been without substantial effort on staff and the board's part. And I'm super proud to say that today we have less than $500 million in debt. And so over the last 15 years, the board and the district staff have paid down nearly $1 billion in debt. And it is something that I am really, really grateful for, all of us pulling together as a team to accomplish that.
Fantastic.
Additionally, we worked very closely with both Governor Brown's administration and then again with Governor Newsom's in order to reach a voluntary agreement that was basically a compromise between some substantial flow requirements that were going to be regulated by the state of California on our community. And we have worked with them extensively to offer up a lot of non-flow measures, things like restoring the habitat, restoring floodplains, and working to find ways to make the river healthier and to steward it forward for the next generation in a way that doesn't require as much flow, because that flow has already been committed to local uses like farming and water supply. And so working through that political field and regulatory field and achieving a positive outcome for our community, I think getting that deal, while it's not quite done, getting it this far down the field is one of the current board's most important accomplishments.
Very good. In addition to other committees, you're also TID's representative to the San Joaquin Tributaries Authority. Can you tell me about that organization, its role, and its importance to the district?
So the San Joaquin Tributaries Authority is a collaboration of local water districts and the city and county of San Francisco. We meet on a regular basis. Each of us have one individual to be their appointee on the Joint Powers Authority, and it essentially operates under the concept that we're stronger together. We share an interest in ensuring that our water is put to use in our own communities. We also share a passion for ensuring that the river is stewarded in a way that is going to ensure a healthy fishery for the next 100 years. I have greatly enjoyed my 5 to 10 years that I've served on that JPA, and really have a lot of respect for our local water districts and their heart and passion for the Tuolumne and Stanislaus rivers. Another thing that I personally have benefited from by being Turloc's representative on the San Joaquin Tributaries Authority is developing a closer relationship with the city and county of San Francisco. They are a very important partner of ours on the Tuolumne River, and I personally think it is the most successful ag-urban partnership in California. We share the Tuolumne River with them. They are upstream of us on the Hetchy water system, and we own and operate the Lake Don Pedro facility. I say we, meaning both Turlock and Modesto irrigation districts. And that relationship where we are able to share both water and also a desire to improve the fishery and collaborate really connects our local agrarian economy with a larger urban set of municipalities across the greater Bay Area. And it's been a powerful partnership. We appreciate their understanding of our way of life, and we appreciate theirs. And so all of our communities have been immeasurably improved by the relationship between Modesto and Turlock and the city and county of San Francisco.
Absolutely. Thanks for that. What are some of the specific efforts that you have made to help advocate for the district, specifically in the area of obtaining a new license for the Don Pedro project?
Yes, I have taken a real interest in trying to come to a peaceable and collaborative conclusion to Sacramento's Bay Delta update that in its initial requirements would require more water than our community could give without making substantial changes to our local economy. So what I have done is really opened up my home, opened up my business, held multiple river tours. My wife, bless her heart, has served multiple dinners in our homes, and we've had a number of members of the State Water Board, various fishery agencies, a whole host of NGO communities, and those who really have maybe a different take on how the water should be used. And it's been a great experience to listen to other people's perspectives and to try to find ways to help them achieve their goals as well. And in advocating for ours, to listen to theirs. And I've learned so much from them. And I do believe that getting people out into our businesses, our communities, and in my case, my business is on the riverbank. I've said for many years that the best agreements happen not in a courtroom, but on a riverbank or a canal bank. And so that's what I've done. My contribution, while relatively small, has been to try to show our community with open hands and show how we're using the water, how we've been using it for over 100 years, and to show the health of the river fishery.
Very good. Yeah, I think you're never going to go wrong when you're working to foster that sort of collaboration and partnership.
I completely agree.
Very good. Okay, so what do you see as TID's place within the community we serve?
You asked earlier about the public versus investor-owned. And as a publicly owned organization, we really are the community. And it's on us to ensure that the community knows their role, meaning that they own the Water and Power District. And so I have to tip my hat to our staff, members such as yourself who are out there. I see you at the fair, and I see you at these various street fairs where you're continuing to advocate for and to spread the message that the ratepayers, if you rent or own a home inside TID's water or power service area, that you're an owner. It's a really beautiful thing to be a part of an organization that really represents the fabric of our community. Additionally, I think that the role we play as a real leader in the water and power space also helps solidify us as really being the backbone, the economic driver for our community. You think about the fact that our water supply historically has been some of the most reliable in the state, and that's because our water rights are some of the oldest in the state, if not the oldest. And so we really have a tremendous obligation to our community, but also it's just we're the fabric that sort of holds the whole thing together. And it's a big honor, but it's also a big responsibility.
Absolutely, sure. Okay, so looking forward then, what would you say is your vision for the district of the future?
TID has such a tremendous legacy. It's a well-ran organization. Our mission is really super specific. It's very narrow by design. It's affordable and reliable water and power. And I think if we just keep focused on the basics, we want to keep our debt down, keeping our finances sustainable, making sure we can pay our bills and keep the lights on, literally, is of paramount importance. Nothing is more important than ensuring that our water supply is reliable, it's safe, that our infrastructure is maintained, there's no leaks in the canals and things that can cause harm. We want to obviously keep our system up and maintained to the best of our ability, and we want to do so in a way that allows us to still bring water and power to your doorstep at hopefully a price that's some of the best in the state.
Excellent. All right. And finally, what excites you most about the district?
This is going to sound patronizing, but this is the people that work here. TID is a base function organization, meaning you really only call them if the machine stops working, right? If the lights don't come on, is the only time you think about Turlock Irrigation District. But the reality is there's nearly 500 people who are here almost every day, working hard to keep us on the leading edge of technology, on policy. It's ever changing in Sacramento. And it's been a real pleasure to serve on the board of an organization that is comprised of people who, in many cases, were born here and who care passionately about our community. And it excites me the most about TID.
Fantastic. And to echo that response, I would say that I am one of the employees that is excited and passionate about coming to work here every day. So, especially when I get to do fun things like this podcast.
Thank you, Constance. It's been a pleasure.
Wonderful. Thank you, Director Frantz. We are now joined on the podcast by Director David Yonan. Director Yonan, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Excellent. So we're asking each of our directors to start off by telling us a little bit about yourself and how long you've been on the board.
Sure. So I'm the third generation of my family to farm in Ceres. So that goes way back to 1946. My mother and father moved out here from Chicago. Those ranches are still in the family today, which my wife and I farm. Shortly after graduating high school, I went on to Stanislaus State.
Nice.
A lot of the alumni see around TID here. A lot of people went to Stan State.
Yeah. Received
my degree in economics. Shortly after graduating, I was recruited by Bank of America. They kind of looked at the economic bachelor's degree and the fact that we were always involved in farming, and they recruited me into their agribusiness lending group.
Oh, nice.
So I ended up spending my whole career, 37 years at Bank of America. The last 15, I headed the Modesto office of the agribusiness division. Married my wife in 1987. I have 2 kids and 3 grandkids, and started with the district in December of 22.
December of 22.
So long answer to your question. Tell me a little bit about yourself.
No, that's great.
Yeah.
I think it's really interesting that you spent your entire career with Bank of America, because that's something that we hear so seldomly anymore, that folks stay in one place for that long.
I can expand on that a little. It was funny because when I ran for the district, I did an interview with 2 newspapers, Modesto Bee and Ceres Courier, which is Turlock Journal. And I told the guy, do you really want to interview me? I'm the most boring guy in the world. He says, well, what do you mean? I said, well, my background is I've had 1 job and 1 wife. And I'll be darned if going around to people's homes, because then I walked the district.
Sure.
And that came back to me more than you can believe. That
interesting.
You're the guy, 1 job, 1 wife.
1 job, 1 wife.
And I guess it appealed to people because I got elected.
Oh, that's interesting. Well, I guess there's something to be said for that kind of stability. That's a good characteristic. So what would you say is the role of the board of directors of TID?
Well, it's interesting. If you think about boards of private and publicly traded companies, the board of directors is voted on by the shareholders. In our case, as a not-for-profit public agency, our shareholders are the public.
Right.
In some respect, we're the voice of the voting public in each one of our divisions.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, going back to your professional background, how would you say that your career in banking, agribanking specifically, has influenced your priorities and policy decisions while on the TID board?
Sure. Good question. I find myself after 37 years of banking being risk adverse.
Okay.
So I'll find myself sitting on the dais listening to a proposal, and if I come off too skeptical, it's because of that background. Remember when I was doing my onboarding with the district, I was meeting all the department heads, and first thing I asked them is, what keeps you awake at night? What do you lose sleep over? Because kind of analyzing things as to what can go wrong is just not something I can step away from.
Sure.
So it's part of my DNA.
Yeah. Well, and I think that, just in talking to each of our directors today, I think that's a good reflection that we have folks that bring the more risk averse side. We have those that are a little more daring. We have, so it creates a nice balance overall.
Yeah.
Very good. Excellent.
We balance each other out well.
Wonderful. So now you represent Division 2. Can you tell us a little bit about your division, kind of in its general area, customer makeup, and any unique details about the division?
Sure. It's, I think, either the smallest by landmass size or second smallest, because it's very concentrated for the number of population in that district. So it's about 80% of the city of Ceres. So if you think about Highway 99 kind of dissecting, most of the city is to the east of 99, and that would be what I would cover. So it's a lot of residential,
okay,
a little bit of ag, very diverse as far as the population, and no one single large user. I think if I get the list of largest user in each one of our divisions, it's like the school districts are number one user of power. It's not a commercial industrial user.
Okay, and that makes sense that it would be the school district, given that you said it's largely residential. That makes sense for that area. Okay, interesting. Very good. So what motivated you to get involved in public service, and specifically the TID Board of Directors?
Never saw myself in public service. So as a background, as I was approaching retirement, I thought I was just going to do a lot of traveling and stuff. And my neighbor is the prior board member for Division 2, Charlie Fernandez.
Okay, yes.
Good friend of mine, been on the board for 20 plus years. After he was voted in for the kind of what was going to be his last time, I think he served like 22 years or something.
A long
on the
time,
board.
yeah.
He said, David, this is the last time I want to do this. I want you to seriously consider running. This was like 3 years he still had left to go on his term.
Okay.
So I retired in 2020, and so I started attending the board meetings.
Good.
And I probably spent good year and a half, 2 years, just going to every board meeting I could, kind of understanding the issues, seeing if I liked what I saw, and I loved it. I loved the way the board was organized. I liked the issues. And so when it came time, Charlie endorsed me and decided to run. As it turns out, a good friend of mine ended up running against me. We were very similar as far as our stand on issues and stuff. But what it did is it forced me to walk the district because I wasn't going to run uncontested. Now I had to earn it.
Sure, absolutely.
The best thing that ever happened to me. So I ended up walking to 3,000 homes, took like 2 months to do it, got to hear the voice of the people. And I still appreciate it to this day. I'll be driving around Ceres and I walked down that road and saw the neighbor there had 5 voters in his house. And so it's a very good experience. I encourage anyone running for office to do it. It's the best thing you'll ever do.
Absolutely. And like you said, a great way to get in touch with your constituents and hear from them what their issues are and kind of get a better understanding of the people you represent.
Exactly. I still value that today.
Oh, that's fantastic. Very good. All right. Well, I guess Director Fernandez must have seen something in you early on that he knew you would be good for the job.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Excellent. What would you say are the biggest challenges the district is currently facing, both on the water and on the power side?
Well, on the water side, it's clearly the shortage of storage. So if you go back to the year I got elected, the winter of 22-23, we got like 20 inches of rain in the local area, 2 million plus acre feet of snowpack.
Yep.
And ended up releasing it all down the Tuolumne.
Yep.
I'm short of what the dam would hold, but I know we could have filled Don Pedro twice.
Yep.
So shortage of storage. So what do we need to do? We need to increase the height of the spillway at Don Pedro. We need to do deals with New Malonas where we can use some of their storage they're not using. We need to look at ways to replenish the underground aquifers so we can store more water there. So the way this is working out is with climate change and these more volatile winters where if you take this year in the local area, we got 8 inches of rain. Mm-hmm. Last year, we got 16 inches of rain. Before that, it's kind of all over the place anymore.
Sure.
So the big concern is you get 5 years of drought. How much water is going to be left in Don Pedro? So the only way you're going to combat that is to add storage, both underground and above ground.
Yep, absolutely. Okay. And what about on the power side?
Yeah, on the power side, it's all about getting out of carbon. So we need to be 60% out by 2030, 100% out by 2045. You can do it tomorrow. What's it going to cost? So If you go 100% wind, solar, battery, you're out of carbon. Nobody can afford to turn on their TV, but you're out. So it's going to be finding ways to meet those goals and keep reasonable price of power. But that's the number one goal, is to live up to those mandates and get out of carbon.
It's a challenge.
True.
All right. So what are some of the key considerations that you personally take into account when making decisions for the district?
Well, you have to look at both sides of every issue. And by that, I mean what's good for the ratepayers and what's good for the district. A good example of that is one we just did with the rate increase. TID had a history, didn't raise rates for 10 years. This last year in December, we took upon a 3-year rate increase. Sure, there's not a single ratepayer that was going to embrace paying higher utility bill, but the district needed it because we have about $500 million of capital spending over the next 5 years that we're going to need to fund. And it's in all of our interest to keep the district financially strong.
Sure.
So, we weigh what's the minimum we can get away with in raising rates, because we don't want to raise more than we need to. Number one, we're a not-for-profit public agency, so we're kind of taxing ourselves if we do more than we need to. But we need to raise some in order to pay for these capital projects to keep up to date on all the assets of the company. So it's weighing both sides of those issues, both what's good for the district and what's good for the ratepayers, that I look at when making decisions.
Yeah, that makes sense. So while you are not the newest member of the TID Board of Directors, you've been on for only 2.5 years now. What has your experience been so far?
It's been excellent. And I think far and away, it's the people at the district that I'm able to meet and learn from and stuff. I think being a big sponge. I think the onboarding process was excellent because there's a lot I thought I knew that I still had a lot to learn.
Sure, absolutely. I'll say I'm 7 years in and I'm still learning every day, so I can imagine. What would you say has surprised you most about your time on the board?
Oh, that's a good question. How complex and complicated the company is. So you think about a company doing $500 million in sales. The lion's share is obviously on the power side, but that doesn't really tell the whole story. How complicated the company is with regulation and the regulatory bodies it has to deal with is just amazing. So I think we spend more time on regulation and regulatory bodies than any other company I've ever known. So, for example, you mentioned Don Pedro. The 50-year license for Don Pedro expired April 30th, 2016. So 9 years ago, we probably started the relicensing 5 years before 2016.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
So 9 years within an expired license. Now we just get a 12-month license. So we went from 50-year to 12 months, spent $100 million. And, hopefully we're a little closer. I don't want to sound too pessimistic. I don't want to say we're no closer. We've done a lot.
Sure.
It's kind of dealing with all those issues and how complicated the company is that just kind of blows me away.
Yeah, absolutely. That's well said. It's shocking sometimes. You serve on the investment and power supply risk committees, and you already mentioned to us you kind of come in from a risk averse standpoint, so you're probably exactly the right person for that committee. But can you tell us about these committees and the role
Sure.
that they play for TID?
Yeah, so the investment committee looks at the funds the district has and invests. So we like to have as a goal so many days cash. So, and there's a range. I think it's from 225 to 275 days cash on hand at any one time. And then there's the normal operating cash that we keep on hand. So lots and lots of cash, and it needs to be invested to be an earning asset. So there's guidelines. There's both rules, laws, policies that govern how that money is invested so that it's diversified into safe, secure investments. So it's not going to lose principal. So on all these committees, you have 2 of the 5 directors assigned to them. In this case, it's Director Frantz and myself. And we oversee that the management of the company does. Probably mainly Brian Stubbert and his team manage those investments. Kind of same thing with the Power Risk Committee. They kind of do the hedging of natural gas, which we are a big user of. And so how long do you go out? How do you do those hedges? Kind of very similar to the investment committee, kind of look over and guidance to how long those things go out.
Yeah, very good.
Just as background, the first month I was in office would have been December of 22, and there was a spike in natural gas. It went from $3 a decatherm to $60 a decatherm in like a matter of 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Then December, January, February, it slowly fell back down, and today it's still back in the $3 decatherm range. But it's that volatility in that price that had you not been hedged, had you not done the appropriate work beforehand, you would have been paying, $60 a decatherm.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's a really great example of that. Yeah. All right. And what is your vision for the district of the future?
Well, how do we repeat what our forefathers did? If you think about 135 years ago, those team of people building out Don Pedro #1, and then again in the 70s with new Don Pedro. How do we in my lifetime repeat those feats that they did? What's our legacy going to be? Is it going to be modular nuclear? Is it going to be, I don't know, but it's kind of thinking about that and making that our goal as to how do we repeat what people before us did as to that being that dramatic.
Yeah, absolutely. They laid a remarkable foundation for us to build on. So what are we contributing to add to that?
Exactly.
Very good. All right. And what would you say excites you most about the district?
Well, kind of dovetailing on your last question, I think it's knowing that we have the people in place to take on that challenge. I am very confident that long after I am gone, there's going to be TID for 235 years. And we have just always prided on ourselves on great people to meet that challenge. And that's what I look forward to.
Right on.
That next group of TID colleagues is going to be up to that challenge and make it work, figuring it out. Not knowing now in 2025 even what that's going to be, I have confidence that they will do it.
Right on. Excellent. Well, that gives us a very positive outlook for the future. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
All right. Well, Director, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
We are now joined on the podcast by Director Joe Alamo. Director Alamo, thanks for being here.
Glad to be here.
All right. Well, let's start off, if you would, by telling us a little bit about yourself and how long you've been on the board of directors.
Lifelong resident in Turlock Irrigation District. Very proud of that fact. Married for over 20 years with my beautiful wife. Got three beautiful children and 3 beautiful grandchildren as well. Graduate of the Cal Poly San Luis Obispo with a business degree, and very proud of that fact. And my wife is also a Cal Poly grad, San Luis Obispo, and all my kids are there. I got my last daughter in there right now, getting ready to graduate next year. So,
my goodness,
it's like a family tradition there. So, shout out to the Stangs.
Excellent, very good. All right, Director Alamo. So, what would you say is the role of the board of directors at TID?
I feel the role of the board of directors, most important role at least, is representing our shareholders, representing our ratepayers. We're their voice. We got to be the middleman between the ratepayers and the district.
Very good. And how long have you been a director now?
I was first elected in 2009.
Okay, very good. And how would you say your professional background has influenced your priorities and policy decisions while on the TID Board of Directors?
I think it has influenced it quite a bit. Being a dairy farmer out there, one of our largest inputs is water and power, and we definitely need affordable and reliable water and power in the district. So my decisions on policy are all set about that affordability and reliability in water and power.
Absolutely. Now, you represent Division 3 within the TID service area. Can you tell us a little bit about your division, kind of the makeup of it, any unique characteristics of your area?
Yeah, I think I represent that division, but like I've mentioned, I feel like we represent all of TID. We're elected by one division, but we got to put our district-wide hat on, what's best for the district. With that said, I think we have one of the best divisions out there in Turlock Irrigation District. We have a variety of row crop and tree crop farms out there, and our communities out there. Shout out to Ceres and South Modesto, some of the best communities in the area.
Nice. And I have a feeling each director might think that their division is the best, but I'm glad to hear that you do as well. So what would you say motivated you to get involved in public service, and specifically with the TID board?
Well, as I mentioned, I'm a lifelong resident of the Turlock Irrigation District area, and just gives me great pride to give a little bit back. You know, I just want to try to give back to the community with how much I've gotten from the district. And originally in 2009, some of the farming community and some of the neighbors and friends I respect coming by and talk to me to try to encourage me to run that first time for the board. So that's how I got involved in District Division 3 board member since 2009.
Very good. Excellent. So what would you say are some of the biggest challenges the district is currently facing on the water side specifically?
On the water side, I still think it's the same challenge we've been facing since 2011. I mean, it seems like a long time ago, but we're in the middle of our relicensing still. We're trying to finish up with our voluntary agreement, and hopefully we come to a conclusion that we can live with a license that we can live with for the next 40 to 50 years.
Very good. And how about on the power side?
On the power side, I think the biggest issue there is some of the state mandates on that side. we got to maintain affordable and reliable power. I think we had a little conclusion today during our board meeting. If anybody of you guys listened to our board meeting today, were some cost containment issues on the state mandate. So I think that's some of our biggest issue on the power side.
Yeah, absolutely. And the state mandates, while they all are good in their intention, sometimes don't always consider the ramifications to the TID ratepayers.
Exactly.
All right. All right. So what would you say is your most proud accomplishment over your 15 years on the board?
Coming off of this, first off, I got to say that I haven't accomplished anything as myself as an individual. You know, it's a board and a team, and all the employees and all the great people that we have working for us has accomplished everything we have. But with that said, I think one of the biggest accomplishments since I've been on the board is over 10 years of no rating increases that we went in a row on the water and power side. I think that's a great accomplishment, and hopefully we can do that again in the future.
Excellent. Yeah, absolutely. Goes in line with that affordability you mentioned.
Exactly, but we maintained reliable water and power during that same time frame. So you got to have a little bit of both.
Absolutely. Two sides of the scale, if you will. What would you say are the key considerations you need to take into account when making decisions for the district?
Well, I don't really want to be oversimplify on this, but I think I'm going to. Common sense is like the number one for me. You got to be a common sense approach, and it goes back to our two cores. I know I mentioned a bunch of times. I probably mentioned another 3 or 4 times before we're done here, but reliability and affordability of water and power.
Now, those are definitely the hallmarks, and I think all of you directors would echo that. So in addition to other committees, you're also TID's representative on the West Turlock Subbasin Groundwater Sustainability Agency. It's a mouthful. Can you tell us about SGMA and your role within the GSA?
The SGMA law was enacted in 2014, which gave everybody the ability to create their different GSAs. So in our subbasin, we have 2 GSAs, the east and the west. The west side being mainly the old service area or the original service area of the Turlock Irrigation District. With that, I'm proud to say that our GSP plan was approved this year in 2025, so I'm very proud of that accomplishment, and we're on our way to implementing that plan in full. We had a productive board meeting today because that was a part of our conversation today at the board meeting, and we're extending our water for the east side for the rest of this irrigation season. So I'm proud to say that as well.
Very good. Now, I want to go back real quick and talking about the GSP that we submitted, the Groundwater Sustainability Plan. That was a multi-year process. Is that right? Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, that was actually our second try at getting the plan approved by the state. And we definitely don't want to have the state come in and take over our groundwater area. So we're better getting that managed locally like we were. It was a long process, a lot of give and take with us on the east side and plus with our consultants. And it was a multi-year, probably 6 to 7 year process to get that up into where it is today.
A huge cooperative effort.
It was.
Very good.
And turlockgroundwater.org, if I can put a plug in for that.
Absolutely.
Go to there and you can learn everything you want to know about SGMA and our plan and everything else.
Perfect. Very good. So now that the plan has been approved, what does that process look like going forward?
That process requires 5-year check-ins and making sure we're staying with our plan and we're checking water levels and making sure there are some acres that will be fallowed in the east side of our subbasin, not in the west, but in the east side, and making sure the water's getting distributed, the projects are getting done, and the groundwater level is where we think it will be for sustainability in the future.
Very good. Excellent. And then you referenced that at today's board meeting, there was some information shared about replenishment water for outside of the district areas. Tell us about that, because that's not something that is available every year. It's kind of unique that we do have that available. Is that right?
Yes, that's part of our SGMA plan that the east side is going to be using water in the east side when it's available. So it's a 1-for-1 recharge plan. It's the best recharge out there. In lieu recharge is what it's called. And we made that available this year. It's been a long conjunctive use practice with the district to make some water available to the east side. We've just grown that program over the years with the need of the Groundwater Sustainability Agency.
Great. So what would you say is TID's place in the community we serve?
We're the oldest irrigation district in the state, started in 1887. And I think that's been our main mission from the get-go, to get some reliable water supply. And then once we started in the power business, stay with reliable power. And we've always had the affordability aspect top of mind as well. So that's what I think is our number one.
Very good. And as this episode is releasing in June, TID will also be celebrating its 138th anniversary. So it is kind of amazing when you think about the process and the plans that our forefathers put into place so long ago still holds up today. We're maintaining the same values and striving for that same balance of affordability and reliability.
Well said.
All right. So what is your vision for the district of the future?
I think your last comment just read right into that. We need to maintain that going in the future. We got our forefathers that have done so much for us. We need to figure out how we can maintain that reliability and affordability of our water and power supply going forward. I think we can think outside the box, and we're known as outside the box thinkers here at Turlock Irrigation Districts, and we need to continue that for the good of our ratepayers and the good of the district to maintain that affordability and reliability in our water and power supply.
Excellent. All right. And what would you say excites you most about the district?
I just have to say that our employees are some of the best employees out there. They care about the ratepayers, which I'm representing. They want to do the best for them. Great dedicated team, outside the box thinkers. They're looking out for us. So I'd say that what excites me the most. But on the further, we're positioned well for maintaining that into the future, I think, affordability and reliability. So that's very exciting.
Very good. Even with, I know we have a lot of capital projects slated for the next several years, really. What impact will those projects have on the district?
That'll take us into the future. We got our forefathers doing a great job, but we need to keep these capital projects going so we can maintain that reliability in the future. Without keeping your system up, you just have the deferred maintenance and the deferred system that we're not going to be the district that we were in the past if we can't spend money on these capital projects.
Very good. All right. Well, Director Alamo, thank you so much for joining us today. We appreciate having you here.
Thank you for having us.
Now joining us on the podcast is Director Becky Hackler Arellano. Director Arellano, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
All right. So as we have been asking our directors to do, please start by telling us a little bit about yourself and how long you've been on the TID Board of Directors.
First of all, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here. I have been married for 23 years to my husband, John Arellano. He is actually from Madera, California. So we lived down there in Fresno, Madera for a little while and then moved back up to Turlock where I was raised. And we have 3 wonderful, beautiful sons. Hunter is 20. Brock is 16. He goes to Turlock High. We have a wonderful little 12-year-old Colton, and he's out at Keys Charter. They are my blessings. My husband has been their baseball coaches since they were 2 years old, so we're very into baseball. We're very, very busy parents, and we all play together as a family, so that's fun. Yeah. I've been on the board of directors just recently as November 2024. I was very excited to be a part of the wonderful board that they have.
Well, I think it's also important to highlight that you are the first female board member in TID's history. So congratulations on that, first of all. And what does that mean to you?
Well, I was kind of shocked, to tell you the truth. People had said, oh, you're going to be the first woman on the board. And I kind of breezed over it and didn't believe them. So somebody said, No. There's been no other women. So I'm looking back on your website, going back through the archives. And I thought, oh, my goodness, they're right.
Yeah.
So, this is a big deal. In education, I love mentoring young people, boys or girls. But for women especially, putting themselves out there in really what's typically been a man's world is a big deal, and somebody needs to make the first step. And it was funny because I work with Pittman FFA, and when I was telling the kids, oh, I'm going to be on the TID board, and they're like, what, girls can do that? So it was a really, for me too, right? It was an eye opener that we haven't progressed maybe as far as we should.
Sure.
And there's still ceilings to be broken.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even in this day. For me, young women and mentoring young people and, guiding them to the careers that they want to have and not to be afraid to step in the water, that's important. So, and I've had a lot of young girls in high school. We have teenagers, so they're always over like, hey, what do you do at TID? And what's your role? And how did you get into that? So they're asking questions of me now where, if they had a father or grandfather or whatever, they just didn't really know what that opportunity meant.
Absolutely, yeah.
I'm excited to be the first woman on the board.
Excellent. Well, if you would, tell us a little bit about your professional background and how that specifically has influenced your priorities and policy decisions while on the TID board.
Well, my role in politics started early with a youth leadership tour when we were juniors in high school to Washington, D.C.
Oh, wow.
So we got to work on the House floor. We got to run page, scenarios. We went all around D.C. I mean, really got to be on an intimate level of government. So that really started my career and kind of opened my eyes to, what the possibilities were outside of Turlock. I come from a farming family. We farm almonds. I've irrigated since I was 6 years old with my dad. And I loved being in politics. I loved the aspect of helping people, yet maybe at a higher level. So when I came back, I went to the MJC for a couple of years and started working at the Board of Supervisors for the District 3 supervisor when I was 19.
Okay.
So I was the legislative aide for Salida, West Modesto, those areas. So I really got a good sense of, how I could help people more at a policy level, not just kind of down in the trenches. What could we do? Section 8 housing. You kind of needed to know a little bit about everything.
Sure.
So I started there, and then I left there and went to work for Congressman George Radonovich in Fresno as a legislative aide for water and ag.
Okay.
So I was boots on the ground. My area was Modesto to Fresno. Most of the water agencies, San Joaquin Exchange contractors, Central Valley Irrigation District, those irrigation districts were in our purview. And then I went to work for Westlands Water District as a public affairs. We did a little bit of PR, but it was mostly we were meeting with water districts. We were meeting with, Congress. We were meeting with the Senate. So we were meeting, any sort of drop of water that we could get our hands on.
Sure.
We were at that meeting. And that's when we lived in Fresno. I ended up quitting that job and moved back, and I stayed home for a little while with my kids and just did consulting. So I consulted with San Joaquin Valley Water Exchange contractors, doing some of their legislative packages, websites, communications, that kind of stuff, going to meetings for them, Sacramento. So I've kind of had my hand in everything.
Sure.
And then when the current mayor now, when she was on city council and then she became mayor, that seat was vacant.
Ah, okay.
So I ended up on the city council that way in
with
Turlock.
The city of Turlock, yeah.
With the city of Turlock. I was on the council for 2 years, and then I chose not to run. I needed a break.
Yeah. So in the diversity of your professional background, how does that impact your role as a TID board member?
So I think now I've learned lessons of listening, right? Not to maybe make judgments as fast, because I'm a mover. I just, make a decision and keep going.
Yeah.
So sitting back and digesting the information that I'm getting, the information I get from TID, sometimes I have to go back and research. I don't know what you guys are talking about.
Absolutely.
So,
yeah. It's a very nuanced industry, and there's a lot to learn.
It's changing all the time.
Absolutely.
There's acronyms that I don't know about. I feel like now in my 50s, I have learned to sit back and digest a little bit.
Sure.
What I was most excited about is the men that were on the board that were here and the leadership that you guys had. That was what I was most excited about coming here. because you can't run things efficiently with chaos.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the people here are very methodical. They're kind to each other. They're respectful to each other. You can still have a conversation and walk out the door and you'll still be friends.
Yep.
You guys are very blessed to have the community of people around you and your work families that are very respectful, even if you don't agree, and that's okay. So that's a testament to the leadership, and that's a testament to the quality of people that have now been, on the board and moving things forward, and you can get a lot done that way.
Absolutely.
So it's exciting.
Absolutely.
The foundation is very strong, which I appreciate.
So you represent Division 4. Can you tell us a little bit about your division, kind of what some of the unique characteristics are?
So I'm probably the board member that has most of town, what you call town. So, housing developments inside.
More residential.
More residential. Okay. A little bit of farm. I go to Faith Home, up to Service, over to Gear, and then mostly just, by Walnut Town, Pittman area. And that's the area that I served for on City Council.
All right. So thinking about TID, what would you say are some of the biggest challenges that we're currently facing on the water side?
And, I think most people think that TID, you just turn on the lights and that's what they do. Or, they run the water down the Tuolumne River and they have Don Pedro. So that's kind of the extent of where people are as far as, what TID is chartered to do.
Sure.
So, but it's so much more than that.
That's right. Well, and one of the main reasons why we wanted to do a podcast like this is to share some of those intricacies of what happens at the district with our customers and beyond.
Exactly. So when I had spoken to Rob, early on, I did ask him this question, what is going on that we can't, what's the hurdle that we can't get over right now? And he said the license.
Yep.
Most of the times these licenses is just like the waterways, right? Navigating your way through the peaks and the valleys, the mountains and the molehills, and, getting to the finish line. So in my feeling, when you're 90% there, that's the biggest push.
And just for our listeners' sake, the Rob that you're referring to is
Director Santos,
who served on the TID board for many years.
Yes, and he was wonderful.
He was wonderful, and he saw a lot of that early work on the relicensing process. Correct. So it was a good handoff for you to kind of know.
Well, and he gave me good insight on kind of what had, gone on historically and what needed to happen. And then when I got here, then of course, your CEO and the Director of Government Relations, Josh, kind of filled me in.
And what would you say on the power side? What's the biggest challenge there?
The power side, I'm literally still learning about.
Sure.
I feel like the water side of things, I'm 60, 70% there. The power side, I'm about 30.
Yeah.
So I'll balance those out.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's only been
6 months. We'll give you a little more time.
Yeah. So, but I like the power side. I'm like, this is like stock market in Sherlock.
It really
is fascinating.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's something that I think a lot of our community has no idea that those sorts of transactions are being made on the daily, round the clock.
Well, and we were eating dinner, and my middle son he loves money, and his friend is his dad's a stockbroker, and so he was telling Mom, I'm going to be a stockbroker, I'm going to do this, and I said, you could do that at TID. He goes, no, they don't have that kind of stuff, and I said, they actually do. It's very fast-paced and fascinating.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's right here in our own backyard.
Yeah, totally. So as the newest member of the board of directors, I'm sure you're in the middle of quite a lengthy onboarding process. What has that process been like so far?
It was I'm not going to lie, it was a little overwhelming at first. As a field rep or as a legislative aide, you're supposed to know just a little bit about everything, right?
Yeah.
In this role, you need to know a little bit and not get in the weeds with people, but you need to know what that function is.
Sure.
And the literature and the people that I met and, the processes that go on. I need to be able to digest that. But if you're going to throw 5 big departments at me at one time, I've got to slow it down a little bit.
Yeah.
So I'm getting through my notes. Mm-hmm. Your staff has been amazing at, hey, this is what this means. Trisha and I kind of run the same route, Blevins, for baseball.
And Trisha is our Energy Markets Department Manager.
So her and I sat at a water polo game for 4 hours, and she gave me the 411 on everything power. A lot of people have worked a lot of after hours for me, just giving me information, which I appreciate that.
And you're right. TID is a very layered organization, and there's a lot that happens behind the doors that folks don't realize. So long as their irrigation water is there when they need it, so long as the lights turn on, a lot of people don't think much about how it actually happens. No. So you're getting a very intimate perspective on how everything comes together to make that happen.
When, and how it applies to our constituents, really.
So what would you say, and again, you've only been on the board for about 6 months now, what would you say has surprised you most about the district in that time?
I mean, you guys have hired impeccable people. Impeccable. High standards, high values, completely full of integrity. They love where they work. They're passionate about what they do. Unfortunately, some other organizations, it's just not like that. Yeah. I mean, I think, Michelle did a lot of good things. She changed a lot of things. Casey and her were completely different style of leadership.
Sure.
And she moved everybody into, the century that we should be in. And then, so Brad could step in and do what he needs to do and get across the finish line. So it's a good testament to the leadership that, TID has had, that they could see the forest through the trees.
Yeah, absolutely. So now you recently had the opportunity to go to Washington, D.C., which we know is part of your background, and advocate on behalf of the district. What was that experience like, and why is it important to have that presence in D.C.?
So I know D.C. to everyone seems very far away, but it's really in our backyard. Mm-hmm. I mean, the leadership and the policies that come out of Washington, D.C. affect us all every day.
Sure.
And just because it's across the country doesn't mean it's not going to affect us. So we need to stay involved. We need to make our presence known. We need to make sure that we're seen and, not just heard. Right. So going back there, it was like going home for me because I hadn't, been back there in, I think it was 22 years.
Oh, wow.
We really just pounded the pavement like back in the old days and told our story. And with administration changes, right, there's a lot of chaos that comes with that. And we were there early enough to say, hey, this is what we need. Mm-hmm. We're not asking for the moon. We're asking for things that we need to get done in order for us to perform.
Mm-hmm. If you had to boil it down, what would you say is like the core message that you were hoping to deliver when you were in DC?
So our FERC license is at the top of the TID agenda. Mm. So how we get that done, pushing on the State Water Control Board, that's where Washington can totally help us. Mm-hmm. We need to make sure that we're doing right by our constituents.
Yeah. How would you describe your vision for the district of the future, the TID of the future?
Obviously, the people own TID, right? Mm-hmm. So affordability for the generations, making sure that we have sustainable water for the generations. Our community is amazing. I go to other people's towns and they don't have half of what we have. And that's because of the great people that we have. We love family. Mm. We love community. We love to help people. We're not in it just for ourselves.
Yeah. We take care of each other.
And, I that's what we instill in our kids, and we want that for future generations. And, if the kids don't want to live here, that's fine, but it'll always be home.
Sure.
So I think for TID, what we're doing here in 2025 is going to be sustainable for the next 100 years for our kids and their kids to have the same quality of life that we've had.
Mm-hmm. So what would you say excites you most about the district?
I think, because I came in on like the 10th hour of like our FERC license and, maybe connections between, other entities and working with our partners and collaborating with other entities. that excites me because it's, it's a holistic approach, right? We're not giving away the farm, but we are able to help other communities.
Well, Director Arellano, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast today. We really appreciate having you here.
I would love to come back.
Excellent. We will take you up on that.
I don't like to talk.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now joining us on the podcast is Director Ron Macedo. Director Macedo, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Well, as we have asked of each of our directors, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how long you've been on the TID Board of Directors?
So I've been on the board since 2009. I grew up in Turlock. I'm a farmer here. Been here my whole life, farmed my whole life. Grew up with a sweet potato and a watermelon in my mouth. That's what we did there when I was young, and did that for a long time. And continued the operation for a while, and then kind of switched to pumpkins now. And I grow pumpkins, a little bit of almonds, and some other row crops. And also operate a pumpkin patch and a seasonal ice rink.
Excellent, which I have been to many, many times, and I'm a big fan.
Well, thank you very much. I enjoy it out there very much.
Yeah, as does a lot of folks in the community. It's a fun seasonal activity. All right. So what would you say the role of the Board of Directors is at TID?
So the official term would be you're there to set policy, but it goes a lot deeper than that. You're really involved in the community. The constituents look at you as a liaison. They want to go to their board members that they've elected to put there to represent them. So they want to talk to you about that. So it's really... It is to set policy, but you really are a liaison to the community and a member of it, and something that's you want to make really good, and it has been really good for the community. Very
good. And have you ever had constituents reach out to you directly with their TID concerns?
Many, many, many times.
Well, that's good. It's good that they know who to reach out to.
But the good thing about it is almost always with a good resolve, because once they get to know and what we're doing here and how it works, usually things work out.
Absolutely. Very good. All right. So tell us a little bit about, we got a little bit about your professional background in terms of the pumpkin patch and the ice rink and almond farming, but tell us a little bit more about how your background influences your priorities and policy decisions while on the board.
So I believe that as a farmer, and still the district, Turlock Irrigation District, is basically water-centric, although we're a tremendous power company. But for the most part, people view us as a water-centric company. So my background is being one that still goes out there and opens the gates and carries my shovel around and irrigates out there all the fields myself. I think that background helps a lot, is to know what it takes to for the district to provide what farmers need out there for that. And also, we're so fortunate to have a lot of manufacturing here. Central Valley's full of that, and the power that we provide here is essential to that. That's why people come here, for the water and the power.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So you represent TID Division 5. Can you tell us a little bit about your division, kind of the general makeup and maybe some unique characteristics of the division?
So District 5 is the largest landmass of the districts, of the 5 districts. The districts are based on population, so mine is the largest landmass out there. Basically, it's East Avenue and West Main and everything south to the Merced River. Is basically, there's some little zigs and zags in and out of there, a couple places, but that's basically the district there. The Hillmar area is heavily with dairies and row crops out there. Towards the west side, towards where the River Merced and San Joaquin rivers meet, there, higher water table and ground out there. On the south and east side there, Delhi and Palico areas, that's sandier ground, and still a lot of farming, a lot of sweet potatoes and row crops in that area as well. Also a lot of trees, so pretty diversified group. But just a very good district, a large district.
Very good. Excellent. And yeah, like you said, there's a lot of diversity within that area as far as what crops are grown and what sort of businesses are out there. There's
many different kinds of business out there, and changing all the time. You're starting to see a lot of strawberries growing out there now, mostly for plants. And that's a lot of diversification. Okay. Even more so.
Great. So what would you say motivated you to get into public service, and specifically why were you interested in becoming a board member with TID?
So I was heavily involved in Farm Bureau for a number of years. I was county president, and then I was state board representative. Actually ran for state board office and didn't make it. And but I always had a good experience and found out I really enjoyed the advocacy part of being involved in my profession in agriculture and making it better. And so after I ran for state office at State Farm and lost, I was just back to farming, and then a farmer reached out to me and said that he'd like me to run for TID.
Okay. So
we told the story, and I says, hey, I'm flattered that you honored that you would want me to represent the district. I really am, but this is an election, and no one likes to lose, and having just come off of that, it's just a tough experience. I would like to do it, but you'd have to have a large group of people support me, and this is going to take some effort to do. I knew the incumbent was probably going to run, or at least I had to assume that. So he said, yeah, okay, just be out at the Mountain View Grange Hall at this and this date. I says, okay, I'll be there. So about a week or two later, I went there, and he had well over 100 people packed in the room.
Wow.
Gave us the chance to speak, and I said, we'd like you to be our representative. So that did for me, that people would be behind me.
Okay.
So it was a chance for me to continue my advocacy and learn more about the district and represent the people and the profession that I like.
Excellent. Very good. And I'm glad you brought up advocacy, because I know you have gone to both Sacramento and Washington, D.C. representing TID. How important is it for TID to have a presence in these locations?
Well, that's where it all starts. And we're here to make policy, but what a lot of people don't realize, we're making policy on what somebody else has made a policy on or made a law on. So if we don't go try to affect change or make that or affect the policy that they're making, it's going to make our decisions that much tougher. And I really think that's what we're elected to do, is we need to go tell our story here, especially as one as good as TID had.
Absolutely. Very cool. Well, thank you for doing that on behalf of the district. All right. So let's talk now about some of the challenges that the district is facing, either on the water or the power side. What's out there?
Well, we'll start with the obvious one. On the water side it's all predicated on trying to relicense Don Pedro. And since I've been on the board, we've been working on that. We've spent millions of dollars, and we're still years away from getting licensed there. So that's very frustrating, very, very challenging. And in those talks, they're talking about taking more water from us, or we have to put down more additional flows down the river. So that's very challenging. I think that's the biggest challenge right there. It's all predicated on what we do and what we can store and to maintain Don Pedro and how we can operate.
Yeah.
We have to have a degree of certainty, and that's what's missing right now.
Yep, that makes sense. And what about on the power side? The
power side is obviously the mandate to be carbon neutral or carbon free by 2045. It's extremely challenging, and the cart is in front of the horse there, and a lot of what the state proposes, and we're not there, and you're just given an arbitrary number to reach it, and the technology and the infrastructure is not there to meet it yet. And so how are you going to do that cost effectively and still maintain your service to the people? So that's a real challenge.
Yeah, absolutely. So over your roughly 15 years on the board, what would you say is your proudest accomplishment?
I don't like to say proud accomplishments, because that I think we're working so hard, and it's just been a pleasure to serve the board and serve the community. But I think there's just so much more to do, and so I don't. My mother always told me, she said, don't break your arm patting yourself on the back. So I don't want to say that. Okay. I think we've done a lot of great things. I think we continue to do a lot of great things here. But tomorrow there's another challenge and another hill to climb, and I just want to keep doing that. Okay.
What do you think, if you had to speculate a little bit, what do you think the district's next accomplishment will be? Or what do you hope it is, maybe?
Well, obviously is to secure the relicense of Don Pedro. I think that's the number one. I think is to secure the as much carbon-free power as we can in an affordable and efficient manner. Those are probably the top two.
Okay, excellent. So in serving on the TID board, you also are TID's representative to the Don Pedro Recreation Agency Board of Control. Can you tell us a little bit about DPRA. Why do we have DPRA, and why is it important to have a TID representative on the Board of Control?
So I'm glad you asked that. DPRA is Don Pedro Recreation Agency. So we are partners there with City and County of San Francisco and Modesto Irrigation District. And we operate the recreation facilities at there. But it's mandated by the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, part of our FERC license, that we provide recreation. So in doing that, we formed the committee to oversee what happens. Turtle Rock Irrigation District runs and operates all the rec facility. We have a vendor there, Suntech Operations, that maintain the marinas and that stuff. But the rest of the campgrounds are all run by Turtle Rock Irrigation District.
Okay.
It's a pleasure for me to do that because that's kind of my line of business with the pumpkin patch and the ice rink, the entertainment part of it and interaction with people. So it's little bit of a business I know a little bit about. So it's a real pleasure. We have a great manager up there in Ryan Reese and what he's getting done up there. And it's a little bit of a challenge as well because the board here has given us direction to try to be revenue neutral, which is an extremely difficult situation to do. It's a great place. Don Pedro is a real jewel of a lake. The amount of recreation that we provide up there, we have from fishing to skiing to camping, and there's a number of things that we're looking at doing. A couple additional things there. We're looking at putting a disc golf course in.
Oh, fun!
Yeah, so there's just a number of things to do up there, and it's a real jewel, and it means a lot because it's not only our water supply source, but it's a place for all the community to go and enjoy what we've built up.
Absolutely. And I would venture to guess that a lot of people who go there to enjoy the recreation aspect of it don't understand how important that reservoir is that they're enjoying and having fun in.
And that's why I argue with my constituents about how important Don Pedro is because it really does send a message to what we have and how important that is there politically, what it does and what it means for this whole community to have. Because everybody's not a farmer, everybody's not running a business, but they all have time for recreation or they want to make time for recreation.
Sure.
And that's a great place to go up there and do it.
Awesome. I understand that just this year, Lake Don Pedro has hosted 2 professional fishing tournaments. Is that right? That's kind of a new thing for the reservoir.
So it was amazing to me, and I've been chairman there for 4 or 5 years now. There's over 100 bass fishing tournaments a year there.
No kidding.
Yeah, there's a number of them. But they hosted the BAM Bass Fishing Tour.
Okay.
So they had an amateur division and a pro division.
Wow.
And I think there's more coming. The other exciting thing there is the old visitor center burned down in 2016.
Right.
And so we're in the process, and we should start construction on the new visitor center later this year. So
Okay.
I'm very excited about that and what that'll mean because it's not only a chance for people to go up there once they see the lake to be able to study the history a little bit about it and what's going on at Don Pedro.
Oh, that is exciting.
And what it's meant to the whole community.
Oh, very good. Well, we'll keep tabs on that and report on the progress of how that's coming along.
I'll be happy to give the report. I'm looking forward to that.
Excellent. And then just one more question with regard to the Board of Control, because you mentioned that Don Pedro Recreation Agency is supported by TID, MID, and City and County of San Francisco. How is it like working with our partners in that way? It's kind of a little bit different aspect of the 3 agencies partnership.
It's a great board because we have unique perspectives.
Sure.
The city and county, due to their percentage of partnership there, they put in the bulk of the money for the recreation. They put in 50% or nearly 51% of the money for recreation. But TID operates it. And the balance of the almost 50% is split between 2/3 to TID and 1/3 to Modesto Irrigation District.
Okay.
So we always have to keep that in mind when we're discussing options and capital improvements or what we want to purchase going forward. San Francisco's paying the bulk of it, yet they have the least control, really.
Okay.
But we enjoy it, and most of our constituents are Valley constituents, although we do get a number of people from the Bay Area that come and enjoy the lake.
Okay.
There.
Great.
So that's how it works a little bit. It's very interesting, but Margaret Hannaford from the City and County of San Francisco is a wonderful person to work with and has both the interests of the city and county and the Moccasin and the Don Pedro area at heart. And she really is a great person to work with. Janice Keating from Modesto Irrigation District is also wonderful on the board. She actually has a sailboat on the lake.
Oh, great.
So she has some unique perspective about being out there on the water and things. So it's a good board.
A good, well-rounded group.
Yes.
Excellent. Very good. All right. So how would you describe TID's place within the community we serve?
So TID's place here is really I talked a lot about promoting and telling the story, but really the main goal is to try to fly under the radar as best you can. You want to just be able to turn your light switch on and not think about it. You want to be able to turn your irrigation valve on and not think about it because it's going to be there. We're here to just make everybody else successful.
Sure.
That's what it really is. And I think we do a great job when we're basically the cheapest power in the state, some of the cheapest water rates and most abundant water in the state. I think we've got a pretty good track record. And the thing about it is this was a great organization long before I got here. Mm. This has been well run for over 40 years now. So it's a great run organization. And to think that just to be part of it, it's very flattering to me and humbling.
Excellent. Well, and I think you hit the nail on the head is that the district is so well managed through the policy making of our board, the decisions made by our board and the staff that then carry out those decisions that a lot of people don't think about the power being on or the irrigation water flowing. It's there when they need it. And it does make it easy for TID to kind of fly under the radar. And
that's what you really want. I think I tell people all the time about that we have wonderful staff here. The challenge is to get people here sometimes, but most people, I get a lot of inquiries about how do I get on at TID and how do I work there? Because once you start working here, you usually like to stay working here because it's just a great place to work.
Well, I would have to agree with that for one. I don't plan on going anywhere.
And we're thankful you're here.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that. So what would you say your vision is for the district of the future?
Just to keep on doing what we're doing. But I would sure like to check the couple boxes, get the license, get the reliable power, all the sources that we need there as best we can. But otherwise, again, fly under the radar and keep that. When you open that door and turn the light switch on, it goes on. And when you look there and you need water, it's there. So that's the vision. Always has been.
Great. All right. So then what would you say excites you the most about TID? What's going on either now or what you see up ahead on either the water or the power side?
Oh, I think there's a number of things that are exciting here. I think what we do with power, how we manage it and how we market it and move it here and the kind of infrastructure that we're building, it's fascinating to be a part of that. As far as the water side, some of the projects that we've come up with, if we can get them through, if we can get all through the layers of bureaucracy that we need to get through there. But some of the projects like tying the Don Pedro and Maloney's together, whether it's raising the spillway or building another small dam there, some of those things, the regulating reservoirs that we built to help the irrigation system, any of those things that we do to save water and how we become even more efficient all the time. And that's very exciting for me to be a part of.
Excellent. Well, and in your time here, you've been a part of a number of exciting TID projects. So it sounds like there are more to come in the future.
Oh, it's never going to stop. There's going to be many, many, many more projects to come forward.
Excellent. Very good. Well, Director Macedo, we appreciate you taking the time to be with us today. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Thank you for tuning in to the TID Water and Power Podcast. You can find TID on Facebook at facebook.com/TurlockID, on Instagram and Twitter at TurlockID, and on LinkedIn as the Turlock Irrigation District. I'm your host, Constance Anderson. We'll see you again next time.